Welcome into another episode of 89 with Steve Smith Sr. and James Palmer. Steve, I have to start the show off with this because I mentioned both of our names in the title. Both of our names are on the title card. Both of our names are right there, front and center. I know it's your hat flip. I know it's your 89. I never wore 89. But Sports Illustrated picked up something from the last show, something that I said about the Steelers' defensive backs, kind of their opinion on Bo Nix. And it said, James Palmer on Steve Smith's podcast. I thought this was our show.
That's not what they said.
No, I know. That's why I brought it up.
I'm the host. You're my co-host. How about that?
I'm like your Ed McMahon. Old reference. Got it. To your Johnny Carson.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, proceed.
Okay. Well, let's dig into it here. Actually, I just thought of this off the top of my head because I had this at the top of my notes. I want one-word answers from you before we get into the show on 3 different topics, okay?
Okay.
1, the PI call or lack thereof PI call in Atlanta on Sunday Night Football. That's enough. How about Jaden Daniels?
Wow.
Yeah. I like that. And Josh Allen, front runner for MVP?
Interesting.
It's interesting. Okay, cool. All right, we're going to get into quick slants here, Steve. We're starting off with the Dallas Cowboys. Whew. A very, very interesting game on Sunday. Ravens absolutely jump out to a massive lead. The game, they come back late, but come up short. Here's Dak Prescott after the game before we get into this. John, roll this. Cowboys sit 1-2. We got issues running the football, which, talking to people there, they knew was going to be an issue heading into the season. Got issues stopping the run as well, what we saw with what Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and company were able to do. Your initial thoughts on what's going wrong in Dallas right now?
Well, before I answer, you just said they knew they were not going to be able to run the football. They were going to have problems.
There was concerns, yes.
Did they believe there were going to be concerns on stopping the run?
Yes.
They did know that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So what do they do to fix it? Since they already know they couldn't run the ball and they already know they're going to have trouble stopping the run, and they were playing a team like the Baltimore Ravens who acquired a running back who's not a passing running back. He doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield in a way you would say Saquon Barkley. So you already know on the roster, you have the Baltimore Ravens, heavy dose of running. You know the Philadelphia Eagles were able to acquire Saquon Barkley, who catches the ball out of the backfield and runs the ball. You look at your schedule, you play in the Giants. They have some issues at quarterback, so what do they want to do? Run the ball. You got to play both of these teams twice, so that's 4 games, plus Lamar Jackson and company, that's 5. And you don't do anything to prepare yourself for the possibility of them running the football? Oh, and by the way, the New Orleans Saints woke up and put every point on every series up on you. So now that's 6 games that your defense has not shown up in the way your fan base is expecting it. How do you plan for that? How do you plan for a disaster when they say alarms are going off, but you sitting in the living room watching TV, eating a TV dinner, talking about, false alarm?
I think part of this is, you're going to throw the ball as a Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb is the focal point of this offense. If you ask people in Dallas, he's the best player on the team. That is what they believe. And you're going to have to put points up. And your offense is going to run through a star wide receiver, which can work. I mean, it's worked plenty of places. Because what do, Steve? You design things for him, and then you design things off of him with the attention that he gets to open up other guys. CeeDee is not off to the start that he wanted or that they wanted. He has openly said
he's
holding out of camp, that it has impacted the start of his season. He's been open about it. You saw the frustration from him in the game. When you're trying to make that comeback that they are, Steve, with the dig yourself a hole, and he has 1 catch for 9 yards in the second half on 7 targets, That's frustrating. Where do you see the passing game going in Dallas right now? Do you see them bouncing back against a Giants team on Thursday night and get it rolling in a sense? Do you think this CeeDee Lamb issue is just a slow start and he comes back to being one of the top receivers that we're used to seeing in this league?
Of course, it's a slow start. And yes, CeeDee Lamb will get back on track. The problem is, how long is it going to take him? And without a real running game, it puts too much pressure on this offense and the passing game. You see their offensive line is not blocking well. Now you have to play the New York Giants, who their front four is pretty good by Dexter Lawrence. They're they have Thibodeau, they got Brian Burns. So your offensive line struggles do not look like they're going to improve next week on Thursday night against the New York Giants. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to force yourself to run the football. You're going to have to be disciplined to run the football, to also give that defense, who's given up a lot of yards, points, third downs, everything under the sun.
Give them a breather on the sideline. Stay on the field.
Yeah, right. So give them a breather. How are you going to do that? You got to forcefully run the football. You have guys at the running back position, so use them. Don't abandon a run so quickly and then put your defense, who's already struggling, in a bad situation, because you're not going to be able to always come back from 21 down to make it a football game like you did.
I agree. And what you're saying, it's all connected, right? Like, secondary doesn't have to worry about, coming up on the run. It takes away your explosive plays if you can't run the football, because defensive backs can play it differently. I think Rico Dowdle might end up being their best back by the end of the season. You knew that they had concerns there when you bring in Dalvin Cook right before the start of the season. That's usually when that happens, Steve. A veteran comes in right before, and camp's over, season's about to start. It's like, oh, man, better add somebody to this room. That's usually a sign that we're not, super stoked about where we stood at this room right now.
I would disagree and say they're not super stoked. Let's just say, I would use a different word. Okay. They're extremely uncomfortable the way things look right now without Dalvin Cook on the field.
Super stoked, extremely uncomfortable. Tomatoes. Here's the deal, people. All season long, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Only on Underdog. Pick higher or lower on your favorite player, and you can join the millions of fans winning millions this season. Sign up today using promo code UD89, and you'll get a free pick as part of your first cash entry, plus $1,000 in bonus cash. Again, promo code UD89 to cash in on every touchdown this season, only on Underdog. Listen, let's move on. Raiders. They come off, Steve. I found this very interesting. We have in the tunnel a hug. Tom Telesco, Antonio Pierce, like hugging in the tunnel after they beat the Ravens in Baltimore. And then 1 week later, they get, the final score was 36-22, loss to the Panthers. It was not nearly that close. It was 33-7. And that happens 1 week after you go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens. And you have this comment from Antonio Pierce after the game, the head coach. As the game went on, I think there were definitely some individuals that made business decisions, and we'll make business decisions going forward as well. Overreaction? Or is there something that coach saw that maybe we will see something happen in this week heading into week 4?
Well, everybody's going to overreact, but you got to understand, AP, he's a former football player. He's a linebacker. He's a Super Bowl champ. He knows the mentality. He's been coaching in college. He's been coaching in the NFL. He's a head coach now. So he's seen a lot of different things, and he knows what it looks like when a guy is making a business decision. But you got to also understand, the business decisions guys were making, they were making it because guys were throwing a football into what I call those blue tent visiting sections. You can see that guys were getting thrown into the fire and put in bad situations by the quarterback decision-making. And so do I believe he was pointing out to Davante Adams? I don't think he was. It was about just or Davante Adams. I believe it was the performance of the whole Las Vegas Raiders team. They did not perform well against a backup quarterback for a team, the Carolina Panthers, which should be a easy win. The organization is in this and that, and they go out there and put 33 points and pretty much didn't punt the ball, I think, until the second quarter. So everything on paper says that was an easy win for the Raiders, but actually each week you got to show up. Whatever you did last week doesn't always transfer to the next week. And the way the Carolina Panthers beat the brakes off the Las Vegas Raiders shows you each week you got to be ready to play football.
You certainly do. And I mentioned the high of that Ravens game. What happens oftentimes in this league, Steve, there's a letdown. You look at who you're facing. The Panthers have given up an avalanche of points in each of the first two games. Then sometimes when teams make a change at quarterback, what usually happens? Kind of galvanizes the group once in a while in the NFL, and you see a change in the way they play. I'll also put in the fact that this is so Raiders. It happens once a year, more or less. There's a loss where you just go, wow, that was baffling. You know, it just kind of, it seems to happen to them once a year. You don't want it to, but I don't think you overreact to it. Minshew was off target. Devontae Adams was uncharacteristic of himself. Sometimes those things do happen in games. You saw the Antonio Pierce kind of come out and go, you know, maybe we'll evaluate the quarterback position. They're not making a change just yet. I will say this. When the decision was made to go with Gardner Minshew, it was by about this much. To my understanding. It wasn't like he went away and it was a slam dunk win over Aiden O'Connell. They thought at some point Aiden O'Connell will be playing this season. It's not going to be this week in week 4, but keep your eye out on potential quarterback change, because that's the one thing that does usually happen if a coach is looking to spark some things, and we saw it happen kind of in Carolina. All right, let's move on. Quentin Johnston, Steve. You want to talk about the Chargers wide receiver. This was not the greatest of rookie seasons last year, right? 21st overall pick, 38 catches, 431 yards, and 2 touchdowns his rookie year. Panned a little bit by some people.
There was a lot of unrealistic expectation based on his height, based on his body frame, based on his speed.
Big dude.
But if you look at the numbers and you watch his film extremely closely, sometimes his body of work did not always display his physical attributes. I was extremely critical in my breakdown of him, and a lot of people had a lot of good and bad things to say. Whether I'm wrong or right, it doesn't really matter, but I'm lying because it does. It really does. Because when I'm wrong, people will tell me. But when I'm right, oh, we must be in church because they ain't nobody saying anything. So I was sitting around and I was watching the game, obviously, as I was watching them against the Carolina Panthers here in Charlotte. And then I was watching them last week and I was like, who in the heck does this dude remind me of?
Oh, let's hear it.
I said, I got it! Eureka! That's not what I said.
Whole family looks over. Eureka.
I was like, I got it. He reminds me of Vernon Davis.
Ooh, okay.
The way he's used. Let's go to the notes, people, because I know some of y'all haters are going to be talking about, what are you talking about? 6'3", 215 pounds, run 4.4, 4.3, whatever his 40 is, he's quick. Okay? Maybe quicker than me. Who cares? But Vernon Davis is 6'3", 244 pounds, 4.38, the 6th round draft pick out of Maryland. So they're very similar in height, and I believe they're very similar in physical attributes. Vernon Davis's best year is in 2009, and he was balling. Now, I know this is only third week of the season for Quentin Johnston, but let me go to the tail of the details to show you his top 2 depth on his routes. Mid, between 10 and 19 yards. 20 yards are explosive, but it's 10 to 19, and then it's short, 0 to 9. Target percentage, mid, 21.4%, and short 0 to 9, almost 36%. 32 yards in mid, 64 yards in short, 40 yards to yak, and 9 yards of yak in mid. Now, back in 2009, Vernon Davis, top 2 targets in his depth. Mid, 10 to 19, short, 0 to 9. Target percentage, almost 26%. And short, 47%. 268 yards, 301, 37 yak in mid, but 155 yards in yak. They're so similar. And so I was like, okay, let me call Vernon.
Okay.
So I text Vernon and I said, yo, I need to talk to you. He said, all right. So he calls me back and I said, hey, man, tell me about Coach Harbaugh. What kind of offense? What does he do? Now, Coach Harbaugh is the head coach, but his offense coordinator, Greg Roman, running guy. He has an offensive consultant or offensive senior guy, Mark Trestman. He knows how to. Mark Trestman was in Chicago. Who did he have? A big, tall receiver named Brandon Marshall. He understands getting those guys. And one of the things that Vernon Davis told me that Jim Harbaugh does a great job of, he will make sure that everyone gets the football. Now, everybody was complaining and was scratching their head when the Los Angeles Chargers let go of Mike Williams. When they traded away Keenan Allen, they're like, what are you doing? They let go of Eckler. And yet they acquired J.K. Dobbins, all these guys, because Vernon told me that Jim Harbaugh believes in spreading the ball around, doing whatever it takes to make the whole offense effective by grinding it out. And then he's going to utilize guys that he wants to get the ball in their hands quick. And that's what Vernon told me. Vernon was like, look, this guy knows exactly what he's going to do. And what he's going to do is learn and discover what he does. And then as he masters that in the offseason, the coaching staff will be required to add on to Quentin Johnston what he does here good, but something else, because he wants to expand and get the ball in his hands quick and understand and say, hey, he has to play with great angles. He has to understand how to do this. He has to understand do that. And Vernon, just the way he explained it to me, it just clicked and made me feel even more comfortable. It's like, man, if Quentin Johnston continues to take this coach and continues to be put in great positions like this, he's going to have a heck of a year and a heck of a career and play like Vernon Davis in the offense where you can rely on him. You can get the mismatches that you need. Some of these nickel corners, some of these safeties. Well, running a football, they got to have these safeties come down to stop them in the box. So that means they got to have a coverage guy. So they're going to allow the athleticism of Quentin Johnston to be able to take over and get the ball in his hands quick and make some plays with the ball in his hands. So I'm excited. And after talking to Vernon, man, it was really good film studying on that. And I'm going to watch and see. And then Vernon says, hey, I need to get out to Los Angeles and get a game. And I'm going to start watching this kid because, Steve, you made me think about I could possibly help him. Or let me see if what you're saying can really come to fruition. So I was like, man. So we ended up talking for 30 or 40 minutes, rapping about football. Man, it was a dope conversation.
That's fire. I love that, man. That's unbelievable insight. I love it, man. It's always when you can tap in. What does the league love, Steve, right? They love the comp. And if the comp can come from the same offensive mind and the same system, then you can start connecting the dots, right? Then you can start putting it together. And you know what? Vernon's probably not the only one thinking that. You're not the only one thinking that. I would assume Coach Harbaugh is kind of thinking that because he goes back and looks at who he's had and looks at comps when he tries to piece these things together. You don't think he was, had a plan to be comfortable enough to go, we can move on from Mike Williams. We can move on from Keenan Allen. I really like Quentin Johnston. Also, he remembers when he was at TCU in the college football playoff, just absolutely racking up yards against Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines. And he remembered that. But the interesting part is from Coach, he thinks he's got the drop issues that people called were an issue last year. Harbaugh does not think that was a drop issue, that he had it all. He thinks he has NFL caliber hands. He thinks he's going to be a problem for people, Steve, because of all the things that you kind of listed there with the agility, the size, and the strength is another part that they wanted to add on, to my understanding, this offseason to make him even stronger, and they thought that would improve his game. When you ask a player to do something, Steve, if they latch onto it right away, what does it show you as a coaching staff? If they go into it 100 miles an hour, you're coachable. And they love what he does in the meetings. They love the way he took to that guidance of, hey, can you think you can put on a little strength? And they love the way he attacks the practice field. They see him to be kind of, with his combination, Steve, a bit of a problem. And you don't make those moves at receiver if you don't have a plan for a young player like they do. And probably sometimes you see the comp and you go, this checks a lot of the boxes that I'm looking for from that player. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. I love it. Okay, Steve, we're moving into dig routes here. The Minnesota Vikings. Let's talk about them. Are they the team to beat in the NFC? Sam Darnold, absolutely balling. We have Kevin O'Connell, who's really, in my opinion, the coach of the year thus far through the season. I think he's one of the best offensive minds and coaches in football. We'll get into that in a second. Brian Flores on the defensive side of the ball, he has been absolutely outstanding in using his personnel and the football IQ of the group on that side to go and confuse quarterbacks on the other side. But I want your initial take right now on the Minnesota Vikings. Are they, like I just said, they team to beat in the NFC through 3 games?
Man, you got to look at it and say absolutely. Just because of the way they manhandled the San Francisco 49ers. No one saw that coming. And it's not the loss that the San Francisco 49ers gotten by. It was the beat down in which from start to finish that the Minnesota Vikings did. And we are not, when we talk about physicality, we don't normally think of the Minnesota Vikings. We think of the San Francisco 49ers, and we believe that that's the standard. Well, guess what? Minnesota just leapfrogged them, and now you see Minnesota Vikings is the standard. 49ers back down number 2 just because of injuries and availability, and they're just not looking as sharp as the Minnesota Vikings are.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mentioned I want to talk about Kevin O'Connell because the job that he's done coaching the quarterback position has been outstanding, and the way he coaches offense. First off, I want to get a couple things out there. I remember last year, if you remember, Josh Dobbs comes in with about 2 days' notice and goes in and beats the Atlanta Falcons with Kevin O'Connell just sitting there, more or less not even telling him the plays, just telling him where to throw the football, because Josh Dobbs didn't even know the entire playbook yet. And I remember talking to David Shaw, who we both worked with at NFL Network, and is a really good offensive mind. And he knows Dobbs really, really, really well. He tried to recruit him to Stanford. Side note, he tried to get him to Stanford on a baseball scholarship because they were out of football scholarships, and they were going to try to sneak him on the football team through a baseball scholarship. They lost out. But anyways, he was like, that's the best in-game coaching job I've seen from a play caller maybe ever. With a quarterback with no knowledge of really what you do offensively to go out there and win a football game. And then Kevin O'Connell last year has Nick Mullins go out there and average 370 yards a game for 3 games. I mean, it doesn't matter who you plug in there. So there was some concern and wonders about Sam Darnold. And they believe he had a lot of arm talent. Kevin O'Connell thought there's still throws he makes that very few people in this league can make. You've seen that over the last couple of weeks, the way he has thrown the football. Knee is fine, guys. He is going to be playing moving forward, just a contusion. But what does it, what does it mean, Steve, to an offense when it doesn't really matter who goes in to the quarterback position, because he's had to rotate some guys with injury and whatnot, that the offense doesn't miss a beat and can still move?
That's such a loaded question, because I think that does have to do with some of the teams right now who have sustained some injuries. And that's in the AFC where they're missing their starting quarterback. So you got to know, it's always comforting that your offensive-minded coaches have your back, despite who or who is not in the lineup. So you can tell that they're structured to be able to handle things. You lose Jordan Addison unexpectedly, and you have the next guy step up. Now, there's no step up for a Justin Jefferson. Yeah. However, Jordan Addison last year stepped in when Justin Jefferson went down, right? And then they couldn't run the football, so now they replace with a running back by committee with Aaron Jones. And you usually think about when a running back by committee, you go, oh, there's a guy that can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but we're really not sure. This running game for the Minnesota Vikings is stellar as well. So you can just see that it is remarkable, and you just don't know which type of offense you're going to get. Is it going to be explosive pass game this game, or is it going to be explosive run game? Well, it's been both at times in the same game, and they make adjustments. Or it's been that in the first half, and they've made adjustments in the second half. This is what you call great coaching. This is what you call trust, when the players understand what coach is telling me. He's not making it about my plays. He's making it about my players. And my coworker always says this, Mike Robb. It's not about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmys and Joes.
100%. It's a Mike Robb staple. And with that, I love that you mentioned the trust, because one thing that stands out to me in Minnesota is this, and I don't know if a lot of people know this. I don't know if this happens everywhere. That's why I want your opinion on it. KOC is huge in talking to veterans in practice while he's installing things. He's got a guy like Bobby McCain on the defensive side of the ball that he wants to go, hey, what did this wrinkle do for you? He'll walk out on the field. Hey, I changed this up on our offense. It was supposed to look like this. I added this wrinkle. Maybe Justin Jefferson lines up in the backfield, but he's still going to come out and do this. Did that work? And he constantly has that dialogue. Did that move your eyes, right, to a safety like that, to a veteran safety? Did you look over here when I wanted to do this? And he went, no, coach, it didn't work. Cool, back to the drawing board. No, coach, it did work. Have you had, when you were in the second half of your career and you were a veteran, did you have coaches that would come up to you and ask you those things? Hey, we want to do this on defense, Steve. Did it work? Did it not work? Because I think if you have that dialogue and trust in your players and you're willing to listen to them, I think it's an advantage done the right way.
Well, every coach will ask input from their players. That's standard across the league. Here's the problem. Will they implement it? Yeah. Will they really call it in the game? Here's another note that I can add to what you just said that just reminded me. Sam Darnold, he's in a new place, but there is a familiar face. Sam Darnold was drafted by the New York Jets. Who was the backup quarterback for the New York Jets around that time that Sam Darnold was there? Oh, Sam Darnold's quarterback coach, Josh McCown. Think about it. You're having some familiar guys that you trust, but also see the game and understand what I'm looking at as a player who now is a coach where he speaks my language. He can coach me, but he also knows what it's like when you're under duress and sometimes make throws that you shouldn't, that you have a calm voice that's been not just in the trenches, but also now in your meeting rooms. And that happens to be now my former teammate, but now my position coach. Bro, man, kick up your feet, put some sweet tea on there, man. You could just talk about the old times. And so I think that's just working as well.
It's working great. It's kind of funny. You think the most probably amount of continuity and consistency for Sam Darnold was being a backup in San Francisco and then signing
in the same offense
with the Vikings. You know what I mean? Like going from backup to starter and changing teams is actually the best situation he's been in as a starter or as a player in the NFL. And you mentioned coworkers. I got to throw this out there too. Our coworker, Bill Belichick, he actually said, I think he's asked around, the only people that didn't like Sam Darnold were the people with the Jets. He's like, there were people in Carolina really like Sam Darnold. There's people with the Rams that like Sam Darnold. There's people with the 49ers that really like Sam Darnold. And I think what Kevin O'Connell has done, and it's one of the things that I think makes him a really good coach, is teaching Sam Darnold the who, what, why, how, when of we're doing this. I want you to do this because I want your feet to be here. It will help us in this. I want your eyes to be here. It will help with this. He's so good at teaching the intent of the play to players like at the quarterback position. It's huge. It's been a brilliant coaching job. And the last note I will say about this, and I was talking to a general manager about this, Steve Spagnuolo, with the Kansas City Chiefs, it's kind of like a cheat code, isn't it? You got a great defensive mind that is not going to leave your organization. He's not getting poached to be a head coach. I don't know why, for one reason or another, but he's not leaving, right? Andy Reid doesn't have to worry about one half. It's a similar situation in Minnesota. Brian Flores is not leaving for a head coaching job somewhere else. Kevin O'Connell has to be sitting there going, cool. I get to keep this guy on as my defensive coordinator. It's almost like the GM was saying, it's almost like a cheat code. When you have somebody that talented on the defensive side of the ball, you don't have to worry about leaving the building for one reason or another. The way the league is viewing them, it's a massive advantage, and the Vikings have it. A team that's kind of in a different situation right now, Steve, our other dig route is the Miami Dolphins. We always want to sometimes, dive into a receiver room, if you will. You've been in plenty of them over the years. With Tua Tagovailoa out, that obviously changes things for these immensely talented wide receivers and what's going on with him. What is the conversation, you think, going on inside the wide receiver room in Miami right now?
Well, obviously, it's different, right? One of the things that I've noticed is you try to read, but you try not to, of all the things that are being said. And some of the clippings are Chris Greer and Coach Mike Daniels did not prepare or build this team the right way. I'm kind of surprised with that statement because who has a contingency plan that your offense that's built around precision, timing, and your quarterback should be built off what the backup is or isn't? No one has a contingency plan for the backup quarterback taking over during the season. This offense has been built on, over the last couple of years, finding out what Tua can do or cannot do.
True.
What you want this offense to look like, and then building around that. And that's what they did. The unfortunate part is Tua got hurt, and no one saw this coming. No one thought that this would be the worst case scenario would be the case of what's going on in Miami. So I don't know if there's a plan you can have, and who wants to only plan for disasters. I think that sucks, and that pessimisticness is not the way you're going to win over your players, and I just don't think it's right. Now, what's going on at the wide receivers? Well, one is you got a little bit of pressing by the wide receivers because they have to overcome for the lack of experience that Skylar Thompson has. He played well in the playoffs, but he's not your starting quarterback. Your offense is run differently. It looks differently. And they also aren't blocking great up front, but he also isn't making those decisions consistently. The first couple of throws, he was throwing it on time. Boom. Then he fumbles and just kind of gets nervous. You can see the situation, the pressure just mounted. You can see things started to get off the tracks. And I don't think it's going to get better. Now, the question is going to be, everybody's running the 7 people who are available, right? I say it's only 6. You want to go through those 6?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we got Ryan Tannehill is the number 1 guy. I think Ryan Tannehill can throw the ball with precision for 1 or 2 games. The question is going to be, can Ryan Tannehill do that consistently to take them all the way to the promised land that this team has high expectation in his fan base? I'm not sure he can do it consistently throughout the duration of the season.
Okay.
Russell Wilson. Timing is not his football game.
No.
So I don't believe that that's it. Jimmy Garoppolo. I just don't see it. I think his ceiling is a little bit lower than some of these guys on the list. But I just don't think there's enough recent tape to say that you can go back in time and you'll get the Jimmy Garoppolo that we've seen and we thought can take the San Francisco 49ers to a Super Bowl.
Who else you got?
And then number 4, my guy, Joe Flacco.
Oh!
I'll stop right there.
Love it.
Number 5, Carson Wentz. I don't think he can.
Back up.
I just don't see it out of Carson Wentz. He's a gunslinger. He's a guy who seems to be very indecisive with a lot of choices. And when you look at Miami, they're built their offense around a lot of choices. He does not make the precise decision quickly when he has a lot of choices. And lastly, Drew Lock. He scares me the worst out of this list because Drew Lock has a strong arm, and he believes he could fit the ball in any hole. That is not the way the Miami Dolphins runs their offense. They don't run their offense on high risk. They run their offense on high percentage.
That's right.
And precise. He doesn't do that well. But the guy that I believe has the best chance to help them, if he's available in the trade, sitting behind the Indianapolis Colts, has to be Joe Flacco, because Joe Flacco has been in this offense. He's been in this offense with Kubiak, Gary Kubiak in Baltimore with me, and then Kevin Stefanski, who he played for last year, was behind this offense. And Mike McDaniels, who was he? He was the assistant wide receivers coach and quality control, I believe that back in 2006, under Gary Kubiak. And who's his wide receivers coach?
Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan. And where did Mike come from? San Francisco.
Kyle Shanahan.
All under that umbrella of this offense, which is why why Joe Flacco had comeback player of the year, because he was able to sit on the couch and go from the couch to the cockpit and make all of Cleveland believe that they had a chance to go deep in the playoffs, which they did, I thought. So, but Joe's knows this offense in the back of his hand. And so I believe that would be the best guy available out of these 6 guys. Number 7, he's in a booth. He's not doing it. If he wanted to do football, he would be doing football.
He
so
can't
me,
partially own a team, call games, and play quarterback all at the same time.
Why you hating?
I'm just
Let
saying.
that man be who he wants to be.
I'm saying he might want to do all of it. I'm saying the owners aren't going to let him. Listen, Ryan Tannehill, we know he wants to start for a team for the rest of the season. He's hoping that type of opportunity to keep it going. Tua would most likely be coming back. We don't know anything, no timetable yet, but it looks like that's not really the situation that Ryan Tannehill's looking for. Russell Wilson, we're going to see what happens there, Steve, but I completely agree with you. It's just the style of play. He's available quarterback probably in a couple of weeks. I would think Justin Fields holds on to this job if he keeps playing the way he's playing. The calf injury continues, but he just doesn't have the style of play. I'm going down to Joe Flacco. You're saying, you know what I'm thinking about? This quick passing game, all of these motions that could. Joe doesn't even need to step into a throw for half of those. I mean, he's just, with his arm talent and the way he can get rid of the football. I mean, like I do kind of see that. I don't see Carson Wentz right there. I agree with you. The one thing, go looking down at your list. You know what none of these guys have, or none of these guys are?
What?
Left-handed. Like, this is a real issue in the way this offense is designed. And when you mentioned you don't plan for catastrophes and issues, that's kind of part of this. There's 2 left-handed quarterbacks in the NFL. It's Michael Penix and it's Tua Tagovailoa. This offense, and I think this is great coaching, is designed to use Tua being left-handed as a strength. It's what Mike McDaniel went out and did. It's the way, Steve, it's schemed up for a left-handed quarterback. The progressions are for a left-handed quarterback. The motions are designed to keep defenses thinking in one direction when actually this offense goes the opposite direction because of a left-handed quarterback. The bootlegs are the opposite of every other team in football. Think about what this does to defenses. And Mike McDaniel has figured this out and has leaned into it. I mean, if you're an edge rush, a lot of edge rushers don't switch sides, right? They stay on their respective sides. Guys like TJ Watt, he stays going after the right tackle. So what do guys get used to doing? If you're always facing right-handed quarterbacks and you're the edge coming from this side, you're always chasing him this way.
Yeah.
Now it flips. Every edge is chasing the opposite way. And teams have to go about things a little bit differently. I think that's what makes a change from Tua in this stretch even more complicated, because the offense, no lie, is designed by Mike McDaniel to take advantage of Tua being really the outlier in this league. And that's the way that he has schemed all of this up.
Hey, bro, you over here blowing my mind.
And I think that's the part that nobody's talking about enough, because that's the way a lot of this is designed in Miami. And so if you talk to guys that have prepped for this offense, they're like, it takes a quarter, maybe a half to go, oh man, everything is kind of opposite in the eyes of a lot of DBs, in the eyes of a lot of guys going against you. So I think that hurts it, because you also are repping all this timing, Steve, and all these progressions over and over and over again with a lefty quarterback. And now it flips. I don't know. I think it complicates finding that position to fulfill with Tua out for we don't know how long it's going to be. Fascinating stuff. But I would love to see Joe Flacco down there. I'm not going to lie. I'd love to see
That's
Joe
crazy.
Flacco. That's wild.
I'm over you. Blew my mind, bro.
Here's the deal, people. All season long, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Only on Underdog. Pick higher or lower on your favorite player, and you can join the millions of fans winning millions this season. Sign up today using promo code UD89, and you'll get a free pick as part of your first cash entry, plus $1,000 in bonus cash. Again, promo code UD89 to cash in on every touchdown this season, only on Underdog. All right, Steve, it's our go route. This is where we dive deep. We got a little something spicy for everyone today. I can't wait. But we are witnessing right now, and we saw it Sunday night, a maturation of a wide receiver that has become the focal point of the back-to-back Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and that is Rashee Rice. He goes into Atlanta, 14 targets, 12 catches, 110 yards. And Steve, I was getting the vibe watching this game, and this is why we wanted to do this, is everybody knew the ball was going to him. And what was Patrick Mahomes still able to do? Complete the ball to him over and over again. And we saw his emergence in his rookie season. And now we're seeing it really just compound and stack itself. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn by saying right now, 3 games in, he is really the number one option and the focal point of this offense. And so I asked around and wanted to get some intel, and then I'm going to get your opinion on this. He came into camp, unreal shape, I'm told, trying to build off of the way, obviously, the season ended his rookie year. And the chemistry between him and Mahomes just kind of skyrocketed because he can run for days. And we're seeing that in the way that he has been able to start this season. The other part that has just stood out to them remarkably is obviously they saw the yards after the catch. The rack is really what they've loved. They loved that in college when the Chiefs were looking at him.
At SMU.
And he was able to just they believe he's a running back once he turns upfield. He is dynamic and strong with the football. But the way that they've utilized him is what stood out to accentuate a skill set that they believe he has that is not extremely common. Ask around it's this, Steve, and tell me that this is describing Rashee Rice in your opinion, because this is who really much drafted him believes. His pace and feel going across the field is the reason that this works. His feel for space going across the field is the reason this works. And then you have a quarterback that's let some of these things develop and has the vision and the timing and the ability to pick the spots where these work. Is that accurate in your opinion when you're looking at Rashee Rice?
Yeah, it is. What I love and saw out of Rashee Rice as SMU, his ability to separate, his suddenness, but also his tempo, to be able to change it up. And tempo for a route runner, especially an older guy, they learn it. But younger guys, it takes them a little bit of time. Now you add the pressure of Super Bowl champ. Now you having one of the best young gun quarterbacks in the league with Patrick Mahomes. And all of a sudden, you're expected to be able to know how to do everything because Travis Kelce is out there doing his thing. You are now supposed to replace another Super Bowl champ and speedster, which is now moved on to the Miami Dolphins with Tyreek Hill. And all of a sudden, now you're the guy. That takes some time. And you know we're in the kind of market now where it's instant success. You don't have time to mature, to develop, to learn the game. You're supposed to literally be born at 1, or I say be born at 10 a.m. By 1 o'clock, you should be a full-grown man knowing exactly what you're supposed to do before you run out of tunnel on the football field. And people, that's impossible. That just doesn't happen. Not in real life. Now, in the fantasy world and all of that other stuff, yes, but not in real life. And so the thing that I love about Rashee Rice is he's been a sponge. And then you have one of the best offensive minds who's going to lay into him, love on him, but also coach him, not just to be good on my team, but to have a good career, and that's Andy Reid. He looks at people as people, not as players. And that's the part that separates Coach Andy Reid in some of how he does things. When you talk to players that have played for Andy Reid, when you talk to players like me who has never played for Andy Reid, however, Andy Reid, every time I see him, he talks and makes me feel like I was one of his players. Now, what's one of the cool things is when I first met Andy Reid as an analyst, he never told me as a player, but as an analyst, he told me that he and I went to the same high school. And that was pretty dope because I've been going against Andy Reid as a player for years. Yeah. But then when he became when I became in the media and he was the coach, he really started to lean into me and started to emphasize coaching me up as a man, coaching me up as a player, not just as a person. And I really just thought that was very, at first originally strange. But then I was like, you know what? This is who Andy Reid is, and it's always awesome. So every time he wins, lose, I can expect, or I'll shoot him a text just because just randomly he does things that you normally expect from a coach who's coached you. Man, Andy Reid is just one of those real dudes, kind of like a Dick Vermeil, and so it's just outstanding. One of the things I do know and I heard, and you can confirm this, is when he was first drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs, he was not prepared for an Andy Reid type of practice. Puking, he just was not physically ready for the high tempo, the consistency, the lack of walking, the consistent running between the hashes, walk when you get in the parking lot. Andy Reid, again, is an old school coach. What I believe is necessary, but he also knows how to coach these young guys to how they have experienced being coached as well. So he's a coach that evolves. There's terms for player evaluation, right? His burst, suddenness, speed, quickness, dropping a weight, in and out of cuts. But here's a really important one: hips around and attacking the football. Okay. And that's extremely important. When you see Rashee Rice, when he was against the Atlanta Falcons, he was attacking the football. You can see him attacking the football and then, like you said, turning upfield, becoming that running back. But what I love is it's called tempo dash change it up. And that's extremely important because right under that is savviness and body movement. You have it or you don't, but then you have a coach who sees how you use your body and how you use your movement, and that's where you can run some really good routes. And one of the routes that Rashee Rice has really improved on is a shallow route. Now, it's a lot of complications in a shallow route that you may not even believe, but Agent 89 is going to take you down this path just to show you whether you play football or didn't play football. After this segment, I believe you will learn how to run a shallow route, and then you'll be saying, hey, coach, is it out of nasty split or close split? Because I'm open. And this is the thing. Most of the time on a shallow crossing route, it's at the depth, 2 to 6 yards. Steve, how wide would I go? That's such a vast difference, 2 to 6 yards. Well, it's based on a specific play. Is it a first down or is it they're running zone coverage? And then the adjustment. Do I sit? Do I run away? And then there's this rule that you never heard of, unless you're in California, green grass rule. But it doesn't work that way like you believe. Green grass is indicated on coverage. And then there's points of emphasis and a CP, which is coaching point. And here's the point of emphasis. Crossing routes that can gain depth of 2 yards. Get underneath, avoiding all defenders and umpire. Run with speed until you can't. Green grass rules versus man coverage make defender redirect his feet. And redirecting his feet is stair-stepping, which means you attack the upfield shoulder to get the defender to commit, but then you slice underneath using a swim technique to get under. And be aware of play-specific landmark to stop. And the last thing, coaching point. Depth may vary based on play. Not every play is built the same because the defenses are different depending on the position of where you are on the field.
I love that. I love it. Let me ask you real quick because I know we want to dive deeper into this. How much, Steve, does the quarterback's feel for this matter? Can you run this?
The quarterback feel matters a great deal.
That's what I mean. Can you do everything right as a receiver, but if your quarterback can't be on the same page with you, look at your face, it's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? So the feel, like that's what we're talking about with Rashee Rice and Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes' vibe for the timing and the feel of the way Rashee's, and you have to be on the same page about how you're both going to feel what the defense is doing.
Listen, man, you remember growing up, because we old heads. You remember growing up, there was a DARE, right? You remember? Keep kids off drugs, blah, blah, blah. But there's also this point, there's this emphasis called RIF, reading is fundamental. Now, understand, one guy reads, another guy doesn't. You know what that's called? A blue tint. That's called a concussion. So making sure that everybody understands. Yeah. So there's a lot of times when you're running, show of hands means that you're sitting down. Looking with your eyes means you're still booking. Here's what they used to say. Man, I ain't talked ball like this in a long time.
Go, Steve.
When you looking, you're booking. That is a underneath shallow route, and that is the rules. And it sounds so silly, but I'm telling you, they used to have like even linemen, they say pizza. And you know what pizza means? Hey, when we giving it out, don't complain about what type of pizza it is. Hey, fat boy, just get your slice and keep it moving, okay? So listen, if you're looking, you're booking. But if you give me the hands, you must sit down. But if it's a green grass rule, when you make that decision, you got to live with the consequences. And so that's where practicing all this stuff during the offseason comes into applicability during the games. And Rashee Rice is doing that. And that's the great part about it. And so if I'm looking and I'm booking, but then I sit down, I've now screwed my quarterback. You don't want to do that.
Got it. Got it. Can we see this, Steve? Can we see this? I
Can
want to
we see
see
this?
what you're talking about.
You ready?
I want
You
to
ready for
see
this?
what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. So listen, James. So when we're talking about this route, it's a shallow route. So there's multiple ways you can run this route. Right here, I have it color coded for everyone. So there's adjustments. You see the red is sit or run away.
This even makes sense to me.
Generally, when you're sitting, that means you're sitting right here on the near hash, right? Nearest to you. So that's why I have these lined up. You got the Z is generally on the same side as the tight end. So he's off the ball, has adjustments, goes in motion, right? Then X, stationary stand, 2 to 6 yards. Nasty or close means that's a condense or out to the numbers. Then the green grass rule, that's what that green part is. The blue part right I have going right here, that's just the route. But here's what the blue indicates. Tempo and change it up. With Rashee Rice and the speed that he has, he can change up his tempo, add the stair step, which is the upfield shoulder, to get the defender, which is generally the linebacker, right? And so you either have, there's a Mike, Will, which is on the weak side, and S for Sam, which is on the strong side, which primarily is dominated on what the defense deem as the strong side of the offense, is generally Z and tight end. And so when you go in, when you get in here and you go this 4 to 6, when you go this 4 to 6, you're going right there. So you're going to attack the corner, make him go. So if the corner follows, which is green grass, you just go. That means you're looking, you're booking. But you also got to understand, when you're looking, you're booking, you may get hit with something that you don't see, which is in a lot of these defenses now, they're running 3-4 because a lot of teams are passing on first down, versus 4-3 is really about stopping the run. So 3-4, more hybrid linebackers, rush ends like a Matt Judon, who can cover sometimes tight ends, guys like Kelsey, which the Atlanta Falcons found out that you got to decide, are you going to blitz, or are you going to have a guy like Matthew Judon covering a Travis Kelsey? And they decided that they'll line him up with a corner or a nickel or a safety like Jesse Bates or Justin Simmons. And so now you go, you stair step, right? So when I stair step, I'm going to get with speed to indicate to this middle linebacker that you need to get on your horse too. And so when he vacates that area, now all of a sudden you get this Sam linebacker, because now we have the tight end who's going to release I need a marker that works. Now I have the tight end that releases. He either goes post to attack or he goes corner to attack, which eliminates and vacates this area where the Sam has if it's zone coverage, he has a hook to flat. So he has 2 areas. He has to go here or here. And all of a sudden, you stair step, sit down, quarterback throws it, or green grass rule. And with those things going on, you can attack a defense in various ways on a shallow cross. And then you can run like a pivot where you go in like this, get that guy going, and come back out. Oh, They ran that route. That's how they got the first down as well with Rashee Rice when Travis Kelce was running the corner and we saw him kind of throw his hands up in frustration. But that's sometimes the quarterback knowing, yes, my high-low right here is touchdown or first down to check down. But in this case, they needed the first down, not the touchdown. And they were worried about sometimes a corner backing off and picking a ball because, as you remember, Justin Simmons did that later or earlier in the game. That was right there where you read the quarterback's eyes. So there's a lot of cat and mouse going on, but I'm telling you, when there's a shallow route, and we'll get into it as we go on, there's so many routes that a shallow route is considered a zero route. A zero route, you have a shallow or under or a crossing route. Then you have a snag, then a throttle, then an Ernie, then a return. And we haven't even run the hitches yet. That's just 4 or 5 different adjustments on one play that you can do just to get the first down. So that's when they talk about specific, play specific. You can make a shallow look like a throttle or Ernie or a return, and then you can run a return and make that look like a shallow. It just depends on which way the defense is playing and what the coordinator has thought up for this game plan and that particular down and distance.
When I hear from the Chiefs, they're just getting going on these type of routes between Rashee Rice and Patrick Mahomes, and they believe there is so much more growth within this concept for the two of them. What do they mean? Where can they take this?
If I'm sitting here and you're telling me I get to run a return and a crossing route, then all of a sudden now I have the opportunity. So this is the corner. Here's the wide receiver. Well, now I can release, go this way. With Rashee Rice, his speed, that corner has to follow. All of a sudden now that corner follows, then I can run a return. Patrick Mahomes, quarterback's down here. He throws me the football, I can turn and run. Then all of a sudden, I go and you get an Andy Reid where guard, tackle, tight end, wide receiver, X. Now all of a sudden, they shift, put this guy on the line of scrimmage. The X now comes off the line of scrimmage. Now I can go in motion across. That corner has to follow. Now all of a sudden, you run these obstacle routes. Not gonna say rub or picking.
Can't say pick.
Now this cornerback has to decide: do I go over the top or underneath? Let's say hypothetically this corner is smart. He goes underneath. Well, all of a sudden, I see that, and we call that a pivot route, where I give all indication in body movement, which is movement, what we talked about in the evaluation term. I give all the indication that I'm going to the flat, and who has the hook flat? The Sam. So everybody's going that way. I look at him, look in his eyes, stop and go the other way. All of a sudden that corner is reading body language. He goes the other way. So it's all about flow, return, body control, syncing up, riffing, reading is fundamental, and also understanding the down and distance and the critical position you're in at that time that the play is called.
If this is done right, Steve, is it guardable?
What'd you say?
If it's done right by everybody, is it almost unguardable?
If it's done right, yes. But here's the other thing. Everybody has the same film, so sometimes you got to understand you can only do so much with alignment. It's only, you still got to have, 6 people on the line of scrimmage? 7 people on the line of scrimmage. Only so many people can move at the same, it's shifting, which is moving at the same time, but motion, only one person is allowed to move at one time. So it becomes complicated so alignment and assignment is where you start to manipulate and trick the defense because you can't always have movement. You must have alignment. But then also defenders looking at alignment to be able to get a head start on the possibility of what they can be running. Like some corners, literally the really good corners, they will, as they're backpedaling, start to disregard. Well, I'm backpedaling 6 yards. So that means he can't run a hitch because I'm in my 7th yard on the step. Now he can run a go, post, corner post, spider 7, deep out, deep in, come back. And as he goes deeper and deeper into the route, you eliminate routes, but then now you add routes in. So I'm telling you, it's a cat and mouse game and a strategic game and a data and scientific and then also counting that sometimes the things that go through your mind at different depths of the field and different areas and down in distance is how you become a good corner, bad corner, how you become a good wide receiver, bad wide receiver, good offense coordinator, bad offensive coordinators, is can you manipulate? And then now I start to learn how to with my savviness, run routes, release inside and outside, burst and stem, nasty, close, +4 outside the numbers or +2 inside the numbers or on the hash. It can get crazy and I can get lost in all the conversation, but I'm just telling you, that's how crazy and how manipulating you can be in running routes or covering routes based on the down and distance.
That's incredible. Because the thing is, Steve, to tie this back to Rashee again, like they think he's phenomenal between the second and third level, even on these crossing routes that aren't the shallow ones. You know, and that's a totally different like feel you're getting within the defense when you got to get between the other side of those backers and you're between the second and third level.
Well, also what they're also saying is he has the ability with his speed and now his knowledge to attack you, to attack the defense or attack the defender at all 3 levels, deep, intermediate, and underneath. That's a dangerous guy.
This is unbelievable, Steve. This is perfect. We're not going to do this every single week, but when Steve pulls out the whiteboard moving forward, must-see TV or must-see YouTube or must-see digital content, however you want to call it. This is incredible, Steve. This is phenomenal. Did you have fun today? I had a blast.
Man, I had a blast. This is the football that I'm talking. And that also goes to all y'all people that sometimes they say, man, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Some of us do, and some of us don't. But if you want to know if I really know how to do it, hey, I'm going to start bringing out the whiteboard and showing you.
Yeah, facts are facts, man. Steve, love it. See you next week.
All right.